and welcome to the IFN YouTube channel. So I'm really excited today. We're going to go over my top 5 food hacks for food prepping. Now, I do food prepping every week. I don't do it necessarily in the most traditional way of making a bunch of meals in containers, and every container has like a starch and a protein heavy component and like a fat heavy component. No. What I do is I food prep all my ingredients so that when it's the night of, I just have to throw everything together and I still have that fresh tasting meal, but I don't have all the time it takes to make it. So I'm gonna go through and show my top 5 things that I typically cook in a week. Now, I'll be including all the recipes down below, and keep in mind all of these will be plant-centered. It means there's not going to be any animal products in any of these items. So if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and let's do this. Alrighty, so we're gonna actually begin with beans. I do black bean and a pinto bean combo, and I just do that in the Instant Pot. And I feel like doing it in an Instant Pot saves so much time. I don't have to worry about soaking beans or anything like that. So I just combine the beans and water, let it cook, and then I do a slow release, and that prevents that bean smell in the house. Afterwards, I just rinse the beans and call it good. Now I'm going to begin with rice. So add the water like usual, and you want to make sure you rinse the rice, especially if you buy bulk bags like I do. It's like 25-pound bags. It's going to get dusty, and you don't want to eat dusty rice. Like, I feel like you can actually tell the difference in the flavor. So once the water is boiling, add your rice, and then from there you're going to add your spices. So I do like smoked paprika, and then I usually add some garlic powder. And I like granulated garlic. I feel like it doesn't get as messy as like the garlic powder. So mix it, put that heat on low, and just let it simmer. And then I just kind of forget about it. Next is soy curls. So I call this soy chicken in my house. Super simple ingredients, and they're so tasty. So I usually cook about half a bag at a time, and that'll last me most of the week because we don't add it to a whole lot of things. And a little bit really does go a far way. When you take it out of the bag, they're really dense, and you basically have to go through, and it's dehydrated soybeans, so you have to rehydrate them. So fill it up with some hot water. I use a vegan chicken base where it's a flavor of chicken without the actual chicken. And I just add a little bit of that. You can also do just normal like vegetable stock, but I like making my own stock. I feel like it's cheaper. Once you rehydrate it and just let it soak for about 20 minutes, you want to go through and drain out all the juices. And you want to make sure you can get as much as you can out of it because it just will help it cook down better. So you can see right now, I'm just squeezing and squeezing away as I can, and as much as I can. And you want to get a pan real hot. I don't add any oil, so I definitely recommend investing in a good pan. My pan set was like a little under $100, and was actually my push present when I had my daughter. So I added some smoked paprika. I added a little bit of turmeric, which adds a really good like yellow color, which is if you want more of a mock meat look, that's what you're going to get, and it looks more like chicken. I love adding turmeric because it's filled with so much good for you and just the antioxidants and everything else. So while that's cooking, I'm going to begin on banana bread muffins, and I make these probably a couple times a week. They're super simple. You want to get 3 super ripe bananas, and you're going to go through, add them all to a decent sized bowl. And we're going to do the typical dry in one bowl, wet ingredients in the other bowl. So you're going to add the bananas to begin with. And I just use like a potato masher, and I just mash them really good. I've tried a couple different techniques. Blending definitely makes it too liquid. By using just like a normal like fork or something, it just is too tedious. I realize a mashed potato masher or potato masher is just gets it down real fast and exactly the texture you wanted. So go ahead, get those all mashed up. And if you notice, I'm putting all the wet ingredients in the bigger bowl. That's because we're going to be adding dry to wet. There's different ways people bake, but yeah, I usually add dry to wet. That way I feel like I get a better mix of everything. So we'll go through and um, you can see I'm quickly grabbing a couple ingredients, but something you also want to remember, and I'll put this in the instructions, but you want to preheat your oven. So if you look right now, I did um, some milk and some water because I was low in milk. And so I did a combo of both. Now, typically you want to just do milk, but if you're low on your plant milk, you can always add some water because plant milk is really just nuts and water. So totally works. And then add a little apple cider vinegar. And this is actually, you want to add this specifically for the milk. So go ahead, and this is kind of more of a laser way of I'm kind of mixing it into the milk and then putting it aside and letting it sit. And now we're going to focus in on the dry ingredients. I will say these muffins are a very mild tasting muffin. So if you want to add more of a sweet component, you can. But for our diet, I try to stay away from like refined sugar as much as I can. So that's why you won't see us adding any refined sugar to this. So this bowl is going to be my dry ingredients. So get out your cup, and this is some oat flour. Sometimes I make it myself. Sometimes I splurge and just buy it. I like the texture of like the store-bought one, and I can put the brand down below. The only thing is it's pricey, so it's really just if there's a week when I know I'm spending a little less on groceries, I'm gonna put the extra money towards getting a nicer oat flour because I use oat flour so much. So I'm pretty loose with it. Add a cup of oat flour, and then you're going to do a cup of actual rolled oats. And you can do like quick oats, or you can do rolled oats. I would not do steel cut oats, but any one of those type of oats. Go ahead, do a cup. Sometimes I get crazy and I just do all just regular oats. You can really play around with the dry elements as long as it's 2 cups of it. And then I'm going to add some protein powder. So I really like Sunwar protein blend, and I like to do the maple flavor. I think this adds a good flavor to it. Luckily, they don't do any like real bad things in that kind of protein powder. I really like the ingredients. And something else that it really helps with is making these muffins more like dense and more hearty, like just adding some extra protein really just adds a little kick to it. So I'm adding there some of my baking elements, the baking soda, baking powder, and also last thing on the protein powder is a little bit goes a long way. You don't need to add a whole lot. And keep in mind that if you do want to add additional protein powder, you want to adjust your liquids or your wet ingredients for your dry ingredients. So you want to mix it all the way through. And the last thing I added was actually cinnamon, just so you know. And then something I forgot to film was I did add some salt as well. And I just use iodized salt. I kind of feel like I'm like the last person I know that still just uses traditional iodized salt. Like anytime I go to anyone else's house, it's always like Himalayan salt or this kind of salt. Salt gets so fancy these days, but I just get regular basic salt. I like the iodine that's in it. It's something that is really good for your thyroid. So if I'm going to be cooking with salt, I'd rather just cook with a salt that I know has some good stuff in it for me. So like I said, I'm going to add the dry ingredients to the wet. And you want to mix it totally through. I never get worried about it being too like thin or like too mixed. I just go ahead and I just mix it as well as possible. And then once you're done mixing it, you're going to be adding it to a cupcake tray. Now, I will say that you want to make sure that your tray is probably a little bit newer or well cleaned. I don't by any means have an expensive tray, but I don't cook with oil. And so that means that I have to make sure that all my stuff is pretty well like non-stick. So this is just a basic muffin tray. I haven't had any problems with it. Just I always make sure that I clean it really good after the fact. And because I buy kind of like a cheaper tray, if it does start getting like corroded or like that rusty look or anything like that, I just replace it. I feel like that's probably the easiest way of doing it. I don't like using the like cupcake holders if I can avoid it because they don't peel off very well off of this recipe. So I just try to avoid them. So I cook it about 23 minutes and then I pull it out. Now, this is a trick that I've been doing for years. Since I don't use any oil, I have to be real gentle with how I get the muffins out of the tray. So if you look, I actually dropped it, but I use a little skewer and I kind of just help ease the muffin out. So I kind of get around all the edges very gently and just kind of help it detach from the actual tray. And with this, you want to make sure you let your muffins sit out just for a little bit. I usually do about 10 minutes. And if you look, it turns into a beautiful banana bread muffin and it's delicious. So I just do this with all of them. So next, I'm going to show you one of my signature cheese sauces. I always have this sauce in my fridge. It is so good. It lasts the week. So you want to add some water and then nutritional yeast. I like to get non-fortified nutritional yeast. I like it better for the flavor. I can tell a difference with the flavor. And also, I don't need everything that's in the fortified nutritional yeast. And so I like to get the non-fortified. And then I add some tahini. Any brand of that really works. And turmeric. Turmeric, I try to sneak into as many things as I can. Turmeric is so good for you. It's ridiculous how good it is. So, and it adds that good, beautiful, yellow, cheesy look. So some turmeric and then onion powder. I will have actual measurements down below. I've been making this for like 5 years. So at this point, like I know what to add for it to get the flavor I want. And um, you want to go ahead and get out a whisk. I make it in big batches, but I'm going to include the specific like ratio you want just to make a single batch just for like one meal. So get it mixed really good. If it's too thin, always add more nutritional yeast. And here's the end product. Here's everything I food prep this week. Every week it changes up a little bit, but I got my fresh beans ready. I have rice ready for the week, some soy chicken, and banana bread muffins to snack on, along with some cheese sauce. And I'm able to just quickly pull this stuff out and have delicious food all throughout the week. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.